My name is Kamla Hawkins and I'm 28 years old. I got married to my colleague Daniel 2 years ago. Daniel is a bit older than me and he told me he liked me first. It took some time, but eventually I got pregnant after we got married. The baby is due later this year. Now that my morning sickness has gone away and I feel better during my pregnancy, I'm starting to get everything ready for the baby. I lost my parents when I was young, so my husband's parents have been a big support to us. They're really excited to become grandparents for the first time. They live in a countryside area, so we don't see them often. They'd always remind me to take good care of myself and eat well to have a healthy baby. They send us fresh vegetables and fruits they grow themselves. Lately, I've noticed I've gained a bit of weight, maybe because I've been enjoying all those fresh veggies and fruits so much. I have an older sister named Sophia Baker, who is 32 years old. She's married and has a sweet 3-year-old daughter named Maya. Sophia's husband, David, adores Maya and often jokes, "I won't let anyone marry her. If they ask, I'll scare them off." Sophia just laughs and says, "Oh, stop it, you." Since I found out I was pregnant, Sophia has been incredibly supportive and helpful. She gives me lots of advice and acts like a great mentor. If you ever have any questions, just ask me, okay? I've been through this before, so I can help. She also gave us some baby stuff she doesn't need anymore, which will save us money. Whenever I have appointments with my gynecologist, Dr. Rodriguez, Sophia usually comes along with me. Dr. Rodriguez is very experienced and trustworthy. Once my husband Daniel joined us for a session. The doctor emphasized, "The most important thing is the health of the pregnant woman, right, Daniel?" Daniel nodded seriously, agreeing. "Absolutely. She shouldn't be doing heavy lifting or reaching for high things. It's okay for her to exercise moderately, but don't overdo it," the doctor advised. Daniel listened carefully and then reassured me, "Don't worry, I can handle the cooking and grocery shopping. I'm happy to help with cleaning and laundry too," I asked him directly. He smiled and agreed, "Of course. It's not much different from what I do now. I can take care of the heavy shopping, like drinks." It made me really happy to see him so supportive and involved. After we got married, I decided to quit my job and now I work part-time at a local supermarket. My job involves being a cashier and restocking shelves. I work 3 days a week for about 3 to 4 hours each day, which isn't too taxing for me. There are many women at work who have kids, so they understand my situation and often give me advice. Lately, Daniel's job has become more demanding. I know what he does because we used to work at the same company. He's in an office job, so except during the busy financial reporting season, he shouldn't have too much overtime, I remind myself. They've started a new department, and I've been made team leader for a group of younger staff, he mentioned. I need to work hard now that we're expecting a baby. But I worry about him pushing himself too much. "Don't overdo it," I caution him, and he reassures me, "Don't worry, I take breaks when I need to." One day I received a call from my cousin Luke Cohen. "Hey Cam, I need some advice," he said. Luke, who is 2 years younger than me, got married to Alice last year. They've been together since high school. Alice is pregnant, and she's been having awful morning sickness. She can't stand the smell of food and hardly eats anything. "What should I do?" he asked. "Well, if she can't eat bread, let her eat cake, right? You sound like Marie Antoinette," I teased. But seriously, when I was pregnant, I just avoided foods that bothered me and ate what I could manage. Staying hydrated was important, and chewing mint gum or candy helped with the nausea, I advised. "Got it, thanks. You always know what to say. I'll call you again if anything else comes up," Luke responded gratefully. Sophia, who is my elder in motherhood but younger in experience, lives nearby. Since she's self-employed, she has more flexibility with her time. We've had plenty of opportunities to hang out even before I got married. However, Daniel's behavior began to change as he started working more on weekends, claiming he needed to sort out paperwork from the week. We were spending less time together, and I could feel him becoming more distant. One night, I brought up my frustration about his frequent weekend work. "Can't you manage your work better? You said you'd help around the house, but I feel like I'm doing everything," I complained. My belly was getting bigger, and even simple tasks like cutting my nails were becoming a challenge. But he brushed off my concerns and asked for more support, saying, "My work is really important right now. Can't you be more understanding?" "I get that, but I'm struggling too. Look at my belly. I'm working hard for our child as well. Please don't just dump everything on me," I replied. "Besides, what I heard, is it about seeing another man? Do you mean my cousin Luke? He helps me with shopping when you're not around," I clarified. "Cousin, really? We've been meeting for a while now. He's part of my family, so naturally, we see each other," I explained. "Anyway, please be patient with me a little longer." As the due date approached, tensions remained high. When labor started, I went to the hospital with Sophia. Dr. Rodriguez told me, "You're ready for the delivery room. After the birth, you'll stay for postnatal care." Daniel couldn't be there for the birth or help with hospital preparations due to work, so Sophia took care of everything. 5 hours after arriving at the hospital, I gave birth to a boy. Despite the pain, the midwife said it was a straightforward delivery. Seeing my baby's adorable face made everything feel worthwhile. That night, Daniel finally visited the hospital. Dr. Rodriguez warmly said, "Congratulations on your wife's hard work. Hold your baby and enjoy this moment." I was tired but excited to see Daniel's reaction. However, he didn't smile and remained silent after seeing the baby. Then he asked, "Is he really my child?" "What? That's your first thought?" I was shocked and speechless. Dr. Rodriguez reassured us, "Give it some time. You'll grow to love him." Gathering my thoughts, I turned to Daniel and said firmly, "This is our child. Let's work together to raise him." Despite my plea, Daniel remained impassive. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "Doctor, I have a request. Please conduct a DNA test for the child." What? I was stunned by his request. A DNA test? Did he seriously doubt that this was his child? It felt absurd and deeply hurtful. Dr. Rodriguez was taken aback. "Well, it's possible to do that, but these aren't the kind of words you should be saying on the day of the birth," she tried to reason with him. Daniel insisted, "Please, I need it." Feeling wounded, I couldn't hold back. "Do you doubt me?" "This is devastating," I cried out. The pain of childbirth suddenly seemed trivial. "I just want the truth. If the test shows he's really our son, that's all that matters. It would bring me peace of mind. Or is there some reason you're worried about?" Was he implying I had something to hide? It was a terrible accusation. "I don't expect you to thank me, but asking for a DNA test right now is beyond hurtful." As tensions escalated, Dr. Rodriguez reluctantly agreed. "All right, we'll proceed with the test." Feeling disheartened, I knew deep down that the child was Daniel's, so I braced myself for what was to come. After Daniel left the room, tears streamed down my face. I had hoped for his happiness, but instead he had doubted me so deeply that he insisted on a DNA test. Following Daniel's request, we conducted the DNA test and arranged to receive the results over the weekend. When he returned to the hospital on the day of the report, Daniel appeared unusually composed. Dr. Rodriguez handed over the report. "Let's get straight to the point. The test results show that the probability of Daniel being the father of the boy is..." Dr. Rodriguez paused before delivering the devastating news, 0%. This child is not biologically related to Daniel. I was in utter shock, on the verge of collapse. But how is that possible? I struggled to comprehend any explanation. My mind went blank. Daniel smirked triumphantly. "Just as I suspected. You tried to pass off a child from an affair as mine." He pointed accusingly at me. "We're getting divorced. You're solely responsible. Get ready for significant alimony payments." After Daniel left the room, I was left in shock and disbelief. I turned to Sophia and Luke for advice. Sophia listened quietly, then spoke firmly. "This is a false accusation. We need to clear this up." Luke, strangely smirking, assured me, "Don't worry, everything's fine on my end." Sophia snapped back, "This is serious, not a joke." Luke chuckled, seeming amused. I couldn't tell if they were taking the situation seriously or enjoying my distress. Later, Daniel called me. "I've decided to file for divorce. My parents support me. As the victim here, I'll be seeking alimony, maybe around $30,000. I'm thinking of leaving it all to a lawyer. Is that okay?" He continued coldly, "Oh, and you'll cover the hospital bills yourself. I won't pay a cent for someone else's child." I replied sharply, "Do whatever you want." "Fine, do as you wish. I feel like a stranger now. If you can't pay the alimony, I'll take the house and land." "It's my right as the victim," Daniel remained defiant. "Those properties were inherited from my deceased parents. I don't care. Anyway, I'm busy with the divorce preparations. I'll get in touch later." I shared this with Sophia and decided to focus on my next steps. Shortly after, I was discharged from the hospital, and Luke arrived to pick me up in his car. "How are you holding up? Feeling tired?" Luke asked gently. "I'm feeling much better now, but I need to stay strong for this little one," I replied, glancing at my baby wrapped snugly in a blanket. "That's right. I've got everything planned out. We'll make sure Daniel pays back double or even triple for what he's done," Luke assured me. As we talked, we pulled up to my house. Inside, everything looked different. Daniel had cleared out all his things, leaving the rooms nearly empty except for the baby items I'd prepared. There was a note from him. "I'm leaving the house and won't be returning. Don't try to find me at my parents' place. I'll contact you only when necessary." Realizing he might have gone where he usually handles matters, I soon received a call from Daniel. His timing was impeccable. I answered, and he immediately shouted, "Why did you send that to my workplace?" "Well, since you didn't tell me where you were going, I had no choice but to send it to your office," I replied casually. "You've made a mess. I had to explain everything to my boss, and now everyone at work is staring at me because of it. It all went according to plan. That's not my concern, I retorted. So you've seen the notice, right? Make sure you show up at the lawyer's office. Don't even think about avoiding this. Who said anything about running away? You better be ready. I'm going to fight this until the end. It seemed that the legal notice sent by my lawyer had reached Daniel's office. I could picture him feeling rattled. The plan to confront Daniel was slowly falling into place. Soon after, we gathered at the lawyer's office for the divorce proceedings. Daniel's parents were present as well. Sophia and her husband David, who works in construction and has always treated me like a sister, accompanied me. The meeting began. My wife cheated and had a child, trying to pass it off as mine and using my money. This is extremely deceitful, so I'm not only seeking alimony but also asking for the house and land in her name as compensation, Daniel asserted confidently. But I was prepared for anything. My lawyer began to explain. I understand your concerns, however, in a divorce involving infidelity, property division is still governed by legal principles, and not all demands may be met. My role is to mediate based on the facts and ensure fairness, Daniel retorted. Justice is clearly on my side here. Having a child with someone else and trying to pass it off as mine is essentially fraud. I might consider involving the police, his parents chimed in. Kamla, this is devastating. We were so happy about our first grandchild, only to find out it's not Daniel's. It's heartbreaking, especially for the child. Regardless of legal outcomes, please raise the child well and make amends, Daniel's parents added. What you've done is unforgivable. I'm entirely innocent and the victim here. It all hinges on Kamla reflecting on her actions and apologizing to me. Do you have any remorse or intention to apologize? Daniel was convinced of his impending victory. Now is the perfect time. No, Daniel, the one who needs to reflect and apologize is you, I responded calmly. Taken aback by my unexpected retort, Daniel stood up. What are you talking about? I know everything. What if your affair partner found out? I might seek compensation from him too. I've invited someone here who knows about your actions, I continued teasingly. Are you out of your mind? I'm the victim here. Daniel was now on the defensive. I'm the victim here, so who are these witnesses? I declared. Thank you for waiting. Please come in, I beckoned, and two individuals entered the room. Daniel looked stunned. And who are you? I asked the first person. I'm Dr. Rodriguez from the maternity clinic, the first person answered. And you? I turned to the second person. Hi, I'm Luke Gowans, Camila's cousin, the second person replied. You're Camila's affair partner. Did you have a child with your cousin? Daniel demanded, his voice tinged with accusation. Don't be disrespectful. My wife, Alice, is pregnant, and I've only ever sought advice from Kamla as a friend, Luke clarified. I've never seen her in any other way. Please don't make baseless accusations. Luke, isn't that a bit harsh? I interjected, trying to diffuse the tension. I'll have to scold him later, Dr. Rodriguez interjected with a wry smile. Sorry about that. Please let me explain, I urged her to continue. Thank you. Let me make it clear. Based on the DNA test results, the baby is unquestionably the biological child of both Daniel and Kamla, Dr. Rodriguez stated firmly. Daniel was visibly shocked and exclaimed, but the test showed the child wasn't mine. You must have paid off someone to falsify the results. My husband, who is the hospital's chairman, confronted the technician, and he confessed tearfully. We have a recorded confession. Even I felt like confessing when faced with that husband, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Daniel clenched his jaw. Kamla's sister brought a strand of your hair and requested a retest. Normally we wouldn't proceed with this, but after hearing her side, we agreed. The second test confirmed that the baby is indeed yours, and we have terminated the technician who assisted you. His actions compromised the integrity of our hospital, Dr. Rodriguez concluded. Daniel, why would you do such a thing? I confronted him, standing up. Sophia spoke up on behalf of the speechless Daniel. It's because Daniel was the one cheating. Daniel's parents were left speechless, their initial shock apparent. Daniel was the cheater. We saw him with another woman downtown on a Saturday, I revealed. He claimed he was working that day, which seemed suspicious to us. We asked Luke to investigate, Sophia added. Yeah, I used to work part-time at a detective agency in college, so I know how to dig into these things. We gathered plenty of evidence of his affair. Here's a recording of their conversation, Luke explained. Sophia played the recording on a digital recorder. Daniel and the woman's voices were clear. We'll manipulate a DNA test to make it look like the child isn't mine. I'll use that as proof of her cheating with someone else, maybe her cousin. I have photos, and I'll accuse her of infidelity. Then I can blame everything on her, file for divorce, claim alimony, and since she had a child with another man, I'll take the house and land too. I'll be seen as the victim in all of this. There won't be any issue with us being together after that." Daniel looked stunned as the recording played, unable to speak. "I'm a genius, aren't I? More like a villain than a genius," came the woman's laughter on the recording. Sophia stopped the recorder and Luke added, "The woman is Leah Turner, your colleague from the same team." Daniel's face went pale at the conclusive evidence presented. He had no defense left. "Now that the truth is out, it's my turn," said the lawyer with a smirk. He produced various documents from an envelope and continued, "Here are Camila's demands. Firstly, she requests a divorce from Daniel. Regarding the forgery of the DNA test, she won't pursue legal action, but she will seek compensation from Daniel and Leah. Additionally, Daniel will be required to undergo property division and provide child support." Daniel's parents were stunned by the unexpected turn of events. Pressured by Kamla and Sophia, Daniel capitulated. I filled out the divorce paperwork and Daniel completed his portion. The finalized divorce form was witnessed by the lawyer and promptly filed. Leaving the lawyer's office, we celebrated at a nearby restaurant. I was officially divorced from Daniel. I received a substantial amount of compensation and child support in a lump sum. I named my son Landon, and it seemed his grandparents had advanced the funds. Daniel found himself ostracized from his family, burdened with debts he had to slowly repay. His affair with a collie led to both of them being dismissed for violating company policies. Now struggling to find stable employment, Daniel worked part-time at a gas station. Meanwhile, I focused on raising Landon, taking a leave from work. The compensation money I received was sufficient for us to live on comfortably. Landon brought immense joy into my life, and capturing his moments on camera turned into a surprising source of income when Luke edited and uploaded our videos online, which gained popularity. I received tremendous support in raising Landon, not just from Sophia, but also from my colleagues at the part-time job, especially the older women who helped with grocery shopping and deliveries. The store manager, who often assisted with these deliveries, turned out to be a kind and hardworking man who had gone through a divorce himself. Unbeknownst to me, the ladies at work had been subtly trying to set us up. As Landon turned 1 year old, the store manager proposed to me. I admired his humble demeanor, fairness, and how he treated everyone with respect. Our interactions during his grocery deliveries quickly turned into a deeper connection, and I happily accepted his proposal. Landon, too, grew fond of him, and I trusted him completely to care for my son. We're taking our time with marriage preparations, enjoying this new phase of our relationship. Recently, Landon started calling him manager or dad, which filled my heart with happiness. Watching Landon sleep peacefully, I made a promise to myself not to let this happiness slip away again.
"All right, everyone's presentations are done," Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me and began to speak. "There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only." "Absolutely right." His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. "I'm leaving." After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.